Hi there. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Katie Bestir. I'm a junior at UW-Madison, speaking on behalf of Students for Education Reform, a coalition of college student activists and advocates for social justice and equity in our state's K-12 education system. I'm strongly opposed to the proposed $127 million cut to Wisconsin's K-12 public schools that, when combined with the proposed $300 million cut to the UW system, will negatively impact the state's most underserved students. The proposed cuts endanger pathways from high school to college and career readiness for public school students who will follow in my footsteps. As a graduate of the School District of Janesville, in which both of my parents are educators, I owe both my family and personal success to the strength of Wisconsin public schools. As a part of the proposed cut to per pupil funding for next year, the School District of Janesville could stand to lose over $1.5 million. We faced a similar deficit 4 years ago when I was a junior in high school. It was a scary time as I was preparing for college amidst a reduction in guidance counseling services. My mother, an aide for special education students and English language learners, struggled to provide support to these students who are too often denied the adequate guidance they need. Although I made it through those years, many of my peers did not, and I worry that such a significant loss in funds will only further barricade these bridges to college. At the college level, the proposed shift of the system to public authority status could remove requirements for the UW system to provide diversity initiatives like the People Program and First Wave at UW-Madison, which provide pathways for students of color, first generation, and other college-bound students from Wisconsin who may not have otherwise had the chance to attend our state's most prestigious research institution. Although the shift to public authority status may not necessarily cut these programs, I worry how strong the university's commitment to diversity will remain when faced with a $300 million system-wide cut. Our very own UW-Rock County, where we are today, provides so many students from Janesville and surrounding areas, including my own boyfriend, with the ability to take affordable general classes before transfer to UW-Madison or other four-year universities around the state. It also provides essential services for adult and non-traditional students who deserve access to the university system. It now faces an over 10% cut, which along with the rest of the two-year university schools, which would easily be placed on the shoulders of the Student Services Department. These services are in place precisely to help students like my boyfriend access academic and financial counseling, and from my experience working in this very department, are already strained beyond their means. The system is already suffering, and the individuals currently being hit are the very students who need the most support. Students of color, low-income students, and first-generation students, who I urge you to pay closer attention to in the intersectionality of the combined $427 million that will destroy pathways to college for the over 870,000 students in Wisconsin public schools. These bridges need to be built, not broken. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
My name is Mary Beloit, and I live here in Janesville. I really hadn't planned to speak here tonight, so I don't have a prepared speech like some other people. But there are things that I look at in this budget that are non-monetary issues that I am concerned about. And there's an overall theme that I am seeing of a reduction of citizen oversight and accountability in many, many areas of state and local government. There are several boards that would be weakened. I don't know what they all are. The ones that I know would be the DNR board. Several people have mentioned that. That's not the actual name, but the board that oversees the DNR. The Educational Approval Board that oversees trade schools, these ADRC governing boards, and the Government Accountability Board, which oversees our elections. These boards all give citizen input into our government. There's also a loss of legislative oversight. The economic development, merger and formation of this Forward Wisconsin Developmental Authority would not have legislative oversight. Neither would, it looks like, some of our state parks. And we'd be losing legislative oversight over the University of Wisconsin system, which is a core of who we are as a state. There's also move of control from the local level to the state level for the statewide charter school board that would be taking authority out of the local school districts and putting it at the state level. talk about privatizing things that are currently government services and accountable to citizens, such as the healthcare services to the vulnerable populations in the DRC. Private entities are just not as accountable. They can only be held really accountable at the time that their contract is up, and then it's a yes or no vote. Whereas with a government agency, a local agency, you can have input as citizens. The other things with local government, changing the property tax assessment rules and the levy control limits that were put in the last, in two budget cycles ago, that's about local control. Also our school boards. The final thing that I see in terms of weakening citizen involvement is the weakening of information about what's going on, weakening science, taking away scientists from the Department of Natural Resources, from our agricultural research, and weakening information access by the budget reductions in Wisconsin Public Television and Wisconsin Public Radio. These are all things that would take away the voices of our community and take away our involvement. Thank you. I would hope you consider reversing some of that.
Thank you, Mary.
My name is Elaine Strasburg, and I'd like to address something that no one has addressed yet tonight, and that's why we find ourselves in this mess of having budget cuts to programs that are dear to us, and that's the failed tax cuts of a number of years ago. And I'd like our governor, I'd like both Republicans and Democrats to hold our governor more accountable for those failed tax cuts. They were intended to improve business and generate sufficient revenues, and they have failed to do that. So I would propose one alternative is to look at if it's failed, if it hasn't generated the revenues, then to look at reinstituting, if that's the right word, some of those tax cuts. I know I would gladly give up the tax cuts that I received, and I would suggest that those who receive the greatest tax cuts can probably well afford to pay them. I want to make sort of comments that our greatest investment. First, I want to go back to. I share the concerns that most of you have raised. This is concerning conservation. This is the state of Aldo Leopold and Gaylord Nelson, the founder of Earth Day. I don't think we're a civilized society unless we can care for those who have trouble caring for themselves. And certainly, as a taxpayer, I want to make sure that those programs are held accountable. But what I've heard is that we are cutting some programs that are actually saving dollars. But most of all, I am outraged at the cuts to public education. Our greatest investment is in our children. And that's public education, K through 12, and also for our wonderful UW system. We talk about the Wisconsin idea that's sort of permeated the state, that's benefited the state. UW is ranks third in bringing in research grants. Think what cuts will do in the departure of some of our prominent scientists and the loss of those dollars. So appreciate the chance to talk.
Thank you, Elaine. And our last four speakers will be Christy Marsden, Carrie Glover from Edgerton, Aaron McCallum from Beloit, and John Salen from Janesville.
So if you didn't hear your name, you want to speak, you gotta
Yeah, so if your name's not here, raise your hand and Steve will come around. Christy.
Hello, my name is Christy Marsden. I am a horticulture educator with UW Extension here in Rock County, but I am here today as a citizen. I am new to Wisconsin. I am new to Rock County, and I came here for my job, not for the money, obviously, but because I'm passionate about education and teaching people about plants. That's what I get to do with my job. And the Wisconsin idea is really what brought me here. The idea that an entire state thinks it's important to talk to each other and listen and to educate each other is amazing. And then we see this budget, and this feels like an attack on the very idea, the Wisconsin idea. Now, I know there was a drafting error, but you don't need a drafting error. You don't need a drafting error to look at what's happening here. All of the ways that we educate each other are being attacked here. Wisconsin Public Television, Wisconsin Public Radio. I listen to Wisconsin Public Radio and learn so much every day. Extension, I and my colleagues educate all sectors of our community. We have youth and development with our 4-H clubs. We have family living, which does parenting classes, obesity prevention. In horticulture, I talk to people all the time about plants. I'm trying to put school gardens into schools. We have agriculture educator who goes out onto farms and tries to help build sustainable systems so that our environments improve. Like, we're out there doing everything we can and making the Wisconsin ideal real, and that's a part of the UW system. The UW system is also this UW colleges across the not country, state. Across the state, we have these awesome freshman and sophomore colleges that can help build you up into these amazing UW system. And the whole idea is to educate each other and to build this community where we all work together. And it's very unfortunate that it seems to be attacking all of these very ideas that make Wisconsin so great in this budget. And it sucks. We're in a really bad space right now. Sorry, okay. Good luck. I know we can't just make it rain money. That'd be great, but good luck. The Wisconsin idea, we have to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Hi, I'd like to thank the group for letting us talk. I'm Carrie Glover. I'm a Wisconsin native. I'd like to put in my 2 cents about how all of these budget cuts are affecting my life. And I drive to work every day. I love the Wisconsin environment. I get offended when I see a new sand and gravel pit. I feel that we need to conserve our environment and protect our water. It's the new gold. Also, I am a healthcare worker. I have been since I've been 16. I've been at the bedside of a woman who has MS, who was actually arguing on the phone with an insurance company who wouldn't pay for a drug that she had had for 30 years. I don't think that privatization of healthcare is the answer. We should keep the ADRC. We should keep senior care. We also should keep Wisconsin Public Radio. They are unbiased and informed, and they tell us the truth. We should also be against vultures. Our public education is so important. Our children are our future. So is UW system our future. They're the ones who are bringing in new ideas and new research. I object to out-of-state interests trying to tell us, the citizens of Wisconsin, how we should be living and what we should be doing. We are individuals. We're not government. We're not big businesses. And the big businesses aren't in our interests. And I don't think the legislation that's proposed and all of these cuts are representing us. Thank you for letting me talk.
Aaron, is Aaron here, still here? Aaron McCallum? He was a student, he went to do his homework. John, you're next.
I told Kathy I'd be polite. No, thanks. I'm John Salen from Janesville. I'm a retired Beloit teacher. I'm vehemently opposed to the Walker budget. And I think tonight speaks volumes that no one's spoken in favor of it. So I'd like to leave a rhetorical question, that is, will we ever see a Republican break ranks with the Walker people as Dale Schultz did? Because all this is for naught if we don't get votes. That's it.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're a few minutes early, we're each going to just make a couple comments. Well, we're actually later than. First of all, I just want to say that I am so proud to be from here, that this many people would come out, just demonstrates that we have a very active community and a very caring community, and I certainly appreciate everybody being here. So having said that, Andy, you'll go.
Okay.
We'll just take each a minute or two.
You know, sometimes in listening sessions, some people that are set up like this, people will speak and then they'll leave. And you didn't do that tonight, and I think that was pretty commendable, and I think that was pretty cool. Senior care was mentioned 10 times, if I'm not miscounting, so that's another one. And the important thing to remember on that is any little tinker to that. So if the Republicans, and I say the Republicans because they're in control, if they get cute and just touch it a little bit, it's based on a waiver that we get from the federal government. And what they could do is just, the federal government can say, you know, that's not what we originally gave you the waiver for. You've changed things now. We're not doing that anymore. So it's that delicate, and I think it's something to keep reminded. I heard a lot of people say tonight, just leave it alone, just leave it, get it out of the budget. That's the answer to senior care, and I think that that's something to keep in mind as we go forward. I noticed a lot of things, and I heard a lot of words, a lot of powerful words tonight. And I also listened to what I heard something that wasn't said, and that is not one person voted, or I should say testified in favor of this budget, nor did they take one piece of the budget and say they liked it. So I heard that too tonight. Thank you for being here.
And I just, again, want to say thank you. We take seriously, all of us here, take seriously your comments. You know, I have heard lots about IRIS. We've had all sorts of people in our offices talking about IRIS, and it will be a devastation for those people that want to stay in their homes and take care of themselves. Senior care, you know, we have on our websites a place to sign up for a petition, so be sure and do that if you want. We just came from a meeting with our school district, and here in Janesville, the projected cuts will be about $1.5 million this year. So that will be a big hit for our school district. So, you know, I am a proponent of public education, and I'm disheartened that the budget so severely constricts both K-12 and the colleges. I'm concerned, I told Carmen this earlier, I'm concerned that the authority will not give back any or very little of the cuts. Somebody suggested that maybe 15 million of the 300 million can be recouped through the authority. So I have a big concern about that. I don't think that they'll get the ability to do that, especially because we'll keep saying how much you can raise your tuition and who you can work with, and so I'm concerned about that. And also, I am not a native Wisconsin person, and you're never supposed to say that as a politician. But I'm not. But I'll tell you, the reason we moved here is because I lived in Kansas, and I said, if we're going to move somewhere, let's move somewhere where there's great outdoor beauty and great things to do outside. And just as an aside in an editorial, I can't thank Dean and Jane Painter enough for all they've done for the trail system. I'm an advocate of it. So anyway, we all are listening, and I'm going to assume that some of the items will change in the budget because I'm an optimist, and I think that, anyway, I'm just proud to be from here, so thank you all for being here tonight.
I want to thank you as well. I guess the Gets louder when you get closer. And I had gone through the newspapers the last few days and cut out articles on every new announcement of the governor's budget daily. There were surprises by those in his cabinet. Didn't know this was going to happen. We were totally blindsided from the DNR, from the DHS, every unit, you name it. These are just from the last week, articles every day about budget shock throughout this state. And I think the underlying theme here seems to be the stealth with which we're moving. It's not fair to our citizens. This group here today shows the concerns that are out there for our state, for what's happening. And I think our government needs to take this to heart, as someone said, one of the very first speakers. Deal with this situation with your heart. It's about the people of this state who are being hurt. We really need to pay attention as legislators and take all this very seriously. We don't even know what else might be in this budget yet. I'll be cutting out more articles the next week as it happens. But thank you all for being here. You hit every subject on the head. I don't think there's anything that was missed, except for maybe that there's a very small, obscure insurance agency within our state that does insure municipalities and schools at a much lower rate than they can get through a commercial company. That was not a mention today, but that is also an issue that will be taken away, eliminated, and all our municipalities, schools, counties will all be paying much higher rates for insurance. And I think that's about the only thing I can think of, other than a few other boards of oversight that have been eliminated. I'm on the building commission. They're proposing to make us a non-passive, it's a very passive board. So the lack of citizen oversight is a huge concern as well. So thank you for being here and sharing.
Thank you all for being here. Really, I would echo the comments that have been made so far up here, as well as, I share almost every concern that was mentioned by somebody who spoke here tonight. I think there's a lot of work to be done to this budget before it's something that's worth passing for the state of Wisconsin. My background is in local government. I know that's true of a lot of us up here as well. And, I got on the Beloit City Council 4 years ago as Governor Walker's first budget was going into effect, and that was a tight budget. We had difficult times as a local government, but the attitude we took was, where can we find money that isn't going to be too painful for people to pay, and how do we make cuts in a way that affects services as little as possible? And that was the approach that we took. And I know that it's a tough time as a state. We need to find some new revenue, and we also need to make difficult decisions, but I think that's the approach we should take as a state. And I don't think that's the approach that this budget takes. So I'm very concerned about a lot of the things that were mentioned. I hope we see changes to it. And I do want to emphasize that this is really one person's budget proposal. This is the governor's budget. It's not the Republican budget. It's certainly not the Democratic budget. It's the governor's budget. And now the legislature is going to have a crack at it. And it really is up to Republicans in the legislature, who are in the majority, to make the changes, take the lead on the changes that we need to make this a better budget. I've heard openness to do that. I hope that will happen. And I'm prepared to offer my vote in any context where we can actually make this a good budget for the state of Wisconsin. If we can do that, it will have my vote. And if we can't, it won't. But I'm prepared to vote for tough solutions if we can get a budget that works for the state of Wisconsin.
Well, thank you again to Carmen and to you, Rock, for hosting us, and all of you guys for including me. I really think that this was a good use of my time, a good use of your time, I hope. And like Andy said, it's great you guys stayed, because it's important to hear what other people think too. And I know that there are people here that think there are good things in the budget. And I appreciate that you're here, and it's okay if you don't want to talk. And don't tell me they're not here, because they're here. I'm talking. I've listened for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I'm happy to do it. But let me tell you that there are a few things, I'm just going to point out a couple things that I like about the budget that weren't brought up. So we all have different issue areas in joint finance. So the DNR is one of mine, DADCAP, WIDA, Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, and Department of Children and Families, because I care about vulnerable populations too. And if you've heard in the news, there have been some really tragic cases in the Milwaukee child welfare system. And this isn't just the past few years. This is, chronic caseload, overloads and overloaded caseworkers. And, there's really a lot of, the secretary of the department was testifying. She said, anymore it's not child abuse, it's neglect. I mean, there are some really challenging things facing our families right now, which leads us to challenges in school and leads us to challenges in the correction system. And this budget completely reorganizes the Bureau of Child Welfare into its own division. So they have their own resources and they have their own direct reports and they can actually, get more done. They're putting caseworkers on second shifts so they can take calls in the evenings, because child abuse doesn't just happen in neglect from 8 to 5. So these are things that good people are trying to put forward. And so, don't forget that just because you don't hear about it, there aren't things that we don't like in here. They're also putting juvenile justice in children and families and taking it out of corrections. That's something Rock County did a long time ago because they figured out it was the way to go. And now we're looking at that as the state. Putting money in there for child trafficking victims. I mean, there are some really bold things in this budget. I'm listening. I know there are concerns. I have pages and pages of notes, and I'm going to tell you that what I'm hearing here when we talk amongst my finance colleagues in the Assembly Republicans, these are things they're hearing too. From I've been in different parts of the state already, and I'll continue to travel. But we're listening. I mean, there are senior care is one that we've been down this road before, right, Andy?
Yes, we have.
And so this isn't. I mean, there are things that that we will definitely be revisiting. But I do want to just say one thing about Iris. Because when we had the secretary testify in front of Joint Finance, there were lots of questions because, I'm sure people heard from, we don't have family care here in Rock County, but in Walworth County we do. But so we want family care here. Statewide expansion is good. I would think that's something that I've heard here, so that's something that we might like in the budget, is the statewide expansion and family care in Rock County. But, Kitty Rhodes, actually, she's the secretary of DHS right now. She is the author of Iris. I mean, she is the one that really was the champion for the self-directed option within family care. And I think everyone on Joint Finance said, well, we still need to know more information before we're gonna give you the go-ahead on this. But she said, please think of this as Family Care 2.0 and Iris 2.0. It's not, there will be a self-directed option, but I'm telling you, I'm not the only one that said, I need more than your word, but I really think that that her heart is in the right place, that, she's thinking with her heart and her head, because that's what she's supposed to do. But, there are some good people that are really trying to, get us all the information so we can make informed decisions. And you guys have been extremely helpful in pointing out some things that maybe I wasn't aware of. So thanks. And thanks, Deb.
Thank you. And I just want to say I appreciate all my colleagues being here. And I appreciate Amy's being here, because I am in the minority, and the only way we're going to get something done is to work with the majority party. So we need your input, and we need to work together and get some of this changed. So I appreciate everybody being here, and good night, and we'll be here for a while.